talk, but because there's folks that couldn't be here, so I promised to send out a link to it. So hopefully this works. I make no promises. So all I want to do tonight is first thank you guys for coming out. I want to provide just a brief overview of what we're going to be doing in the Kickstart Challenge, talk a little bit about nutrition, and then field all your questions as we get ready for the kickoff next week. Oh, we'll wait for Amanda. Hey, man, just on time. Hi. All right, so first of all, what is this all about? This is different than anything we've done before. We've done the 30-day challenges. We've been involved with the Whole Life Challenge. I thought both were good. I didn't think either was exactly what I was looking for our community. So I kind of stole what I liked best about both of them and put it together into this challenge. This is a habit-forming challenge, not a nutrition challenge. Okay, so there's no list of you can't eat this, you can't eat that. It's about developing habits over the next 3 months that are then going to set you up for long-term success. Right? So 30 days, we could all be super strict and super disciplined for 30 days, but in the long run, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop healthy habits, get rid of some of the old habits, so that we can carry on when it's outside of a challenge. Right? The date's January 13th through April 17th, and then there's really 4 categories that we'll talk about: nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and this thing called the wild card. What is it not? It's not a paleo challenge, okay? I don't want to get any questions of, can I eat this? Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? That's not what this is about, okay? And we'll talk more about that, but it's not a paleo challenge. It's not a 30-day miracle solution, so if that's what you're looking for, I'm sorry. We don't have that for you. And this is not a sprint. This is not about doing as much as you can in 30 days. It's about taking the next 95 days, developing good habits, and setting up that foundation for success. All right, so why are we doing it this way? Anybody, like I said, can give you a list of guidelines. 30 days, this is what you will do, this is what you will not do. But that doesn't give you any sense of empowerment. It doesn't give you the tools you need to succeed for the other 11 months of the year, right? So we want to slowly introduce good habits to empower the members. It's sustainable. It's not just for 30 days. We want this to be the kickoff for the next year to help you hit your goals. Not about rules and restrictions. We're not going to focus on what you can't do. We're going to focus on what you should be doing and what you should do to achieve positive results. And again, it's just the beginning. At day 95, you shouldn't be like, oh, thank goodness this is over. I can't wait to have pizza or ice cream. Because that's how I feel. I've done 3 Whole 30s, and day 31, I'm so glad it's over, right? I just want to eat Ben & Jerry's. This is just the beginning. By the end of this thing, you should have the habits you need to keep going. You shouldn't feel the need to all of a sudden go back to your old ways. This is about permanent change. All right, so how does it work? It's got a couple different elements of the scoring, right? There's some before and after stuff. There's some baselines that we're going to set. So we're going to do body comp measurements, very similar to the most recent Whole Life Challenge. We're going to do photos every 30 days, and I'll come back to why. But we're going to do 2 baseline workouts. So we'll do 2 workouts next week and 2 workouts at the end of the 3 months. And then there's going to be actually 2 essays. Sorry about that. So photos. Everybody's like, why do I have to do photos? The sad truth is that, or not sad, but the truth is, we see ourselves in the mirror every single day. And our progress is going to be gradual. So if we're looking at ourselves every single day, we're never going to see the change. But if you see day 1, day 30, day 60, day 90, you're going to see the change, right? So if you've made significant changes yourself and you see people you haven't seen in a while, what do they tell you? You look great. And you're like, I look the same. The reality is that you don't. So that's why it's important to take photos. No one's going to see them except for me. You can take them at home, send them to me, I file them, I put them side by side for you by the end so you can see your progress, but those don't go on the website, they don't get published, nothing like that will go out without your permission. And the essays, all right, day 7, so by January 19th, why you're doing it, what you hope to get out of it, and what does success look like for you, okay? It doesn't need to be long, couple sentences, couple paragraphs. But why you're doing it, what you hope to get out of it, and then really most importantly, what does success look like? Put yourselves 95 days from now, how are you going to feel? What will you look like? How will your life be changed? That's what's really important to capture. And then at the end, just your reflections on the challenge and how your performance compared to your goals. So these are sort of the before and after benchmarks that we'll be using. And then there will be daily scorekeeping. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, and I'll show you the sample score sheet next, but there's 4 categories every day. There's nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and wildcard. Nutrition. Every week we will have 1 habit. Some habits will go for 2 weeks, some will be for 1 week. But that's the only thing you have to do that day to get full credit. So I already put out there the first week's habit is to eat protein at every meal. Right? So every time you put food in your mouth, it's accompanied by protein. So no more grabbing a handful of pistachios, grabbing a handful of almonds, grabbing an apple on your way out the door. It's protein with every meal. If you do that, you could have chicken breast and a Snickers bar. You get credit. Obviously, that's not what we want, Anne. I hear you laughing. But to get scored, to get credit that day, all you have to do is hit that habit. Okay? Exercise, real simple. You have to exercise 5 days a week. Right? 0 of them have to be here. But you have to exercise 5 days a week. I want 3 days of either CrossFit or weight training. So if you're away, you just go to the hotel gym, lift some weights. Go to the other gym, lift some weights. 3 days of weight training. You can do 5, but at minimum of 3 days of weight training. And the other workouts, as long as you walk for 30 minutes, you're good. Okay? So 3 CrossFit workouts, 2 days of walking for 30 minutes. Those are your five workouts for the week. You can't get extra credit. So 6 and 7, you don't get extra points for. But if you get less than 5, you lose points. Lifestyle is, again, weekly habits. The first one, if I remember correctly, is foam rolling. So 10 minutes a day, foam roll. Take care of your body, right? 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. 3 minutes, 3 times, add a minute, whatever. It doesn't need to be all at once. Just 10 minutes of foam rolling. Or other mobilization, like get with bands on the shoulders if that's your issue. But 10 minutes of that mobilization, taking care of your body. And then the wild card, the first week is fish oil. Take fish oil every day. I don't care what brand it is. And if you have certain specific concerns about that, we'll talk. We'll talk about dosage, and I'll provide you some resources to figure that out. But I don't care about brand, just take fish oil every day. Here's a score sheet. I'm going to send you an Excel file. It just goes all the way down through week 15. And all you have to do every day, if you do it, put an X. That's it. I'll tally up the X's. I'll do all the auto calculations. That's it. There's no 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. You did it or you didn't. That's it. Very simple. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so weeks 1 and 2, we kind of already talked about this. The nutrition, eat lean protein every meal. So every time you put food in your mouth, there's protein. Exercise, we talked about the rules for that. Lifestyle is going to be the mobilization of the foam rolling. And the wild card. Fish oil every day. Brand and form doesn't matter. So I don't care if it's the liquid. I don't care if it's the capsules. My preference is the liquid because it just tastes better. It doesn't come up quite as easily in the burps. We'll provide some resources. We've seen recommendations from folks that I trust that are 2 to 4 grams a day. Now, how do we measure fish oil? Right? So when you look at the back of the fish oil, there's only 2 things to look at. It's the EPA and the DHA. Add those together, and that's your total dosage, right? And most of it's going to be in milligrams. So take 3 decimal places away, and that turns into grams. Does that make sense? I think everybody's comfortable there. And then there are some contraindications, so always check with your doctor before you're going to start supplementing. But if you're on blood thinners, expecting surgery, or happen to be pregnant, we need to talk about fish oil. You need to talk about it with your doctor before you start upping or changing your dose there. All right, so very important. All of this information will get put out in an email to you, so you'll have that as well. In addition to the slideshow, in addition to the video, there will be specific emails for every single habit as we go forward. Any questions? You guys can stop me anytime. Yes, Barbie?
You say every time you put food in your mouth, it must include protein, but are you saying that at 3 meals you have protein and you can have an apple in the middle, or you can't do an apple in the middle?
Anytime there's food, accompany it with protein.
And you say almonds, but almonds have protein.
So, yeah, so we want to look at protein as a meat, right? And if there's vegetarians and vegans, we can talk about that too. So when I look at almonds, I see fat. And that's, it's healthy fat, it's good fat. But we're talking that lean protein.
What about hard-boiled eggs?
Yeah, eggs are good. Absolutely. Other questions?
So if you were to do, like, instead of 3 big meals, say you did, not that I'm doing this, I never did it, but to kind of piggyback on what she was saying,
Yeah.
if you had 10 small meals,
Yeah.
you're saying you want 10 proteins.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end, because we are going to touch on some nutrition guidelines, even though they're not part of this challenge, about looking at healthy habits and stuff like that. Any other questions? All right, so what's next? Every week or two, you're going to get a new habit in each of those 4 different categories. Like I said, some habits will go 2 weeks. Some habits will repeat. So you'll see, spoiler alert, there's the fish oil habit, and then it's going to come back in the end to sort of keep you honest. We're going to create a Facebook group for that supportive environment. you'll get multiple emails from me each week, checking in, how are you doing, here's some resources to look into, here's some motivation. Let's make sure we're keeping that conversation going, because it's real easy to let things kind of slide to the back burner. So we want to make sure we maintain that engagement. And then every month we're going to have a meeting just like this, totally optional. You don't get extra bonus points for showing up. But we'll sit, we'll talk about questions you have, challenges you're facing, what you need from me, what I could be doing better to support you, things like that. And those will get scheduled out through the emails. Next steps here, specifically, pictures. So no later than January 13th, send me the pictures, and all it is a front, side, and back view. Does that make sense? Measurements, we'll do them on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. All the coaches will know what you're looking for. I'll be here, so we'll get your measurements taken care of. We're just going to do the waist at the belly button and the hips at the biggest part of the glutes, just like we did for the Whole Life Challenge. The baseline workouts will be Monday and Tuesday. I'm kind of excited for those. And then your first essay no later than the 19th, which is day 7 that following Monday. Cool? So that's what's coming next. That's what, if you guys decide to do this, that's what you owe me. Any questions on that? We've got some stuff to talk about nutrition-wise, but on the challenge itself, the mechanics of it, the scoring of it, the requirements therein, any questions?
What do you mean by baseline workout? Just because
Yeah, so we're going to do a workout next week, and you're going to repeat that same workout at the end of the challenge, and we're just going to see where how your performance improved.
Gotcha.
So for example, if I said do 100 pull-ups for time, you're going to do that, and then we'll see how long it takes you, and then we'll do it again at the end, and ideally it's going to be faster.
Okay.
That's the
Do you have to
goal.
go to both of those? Or just,
There's 2 workouts. Yeah, so if there's a scheduling conflict,
Yeah.
just let me know.
Okay.
But all the coaches will know what the workouts are, and you can hit them anytime. The goal is next Monday and Tuesday, but if you get them done by like Wednesday, Thursday, no issues.
Wait, there's two, one
Monday
work,
and
one
Tuesday.
specific one on Monday, one specific one?
Yes, ma'am. There's 2 baseline workouts. And just a spoiler, one of them is going to be very aerobic based, and one of them is going to be a little more powerful. So I want to be longer, I want to be shorter, more powerful, just to get kind of both ends of the spectrum, because we don't want to just improve on one, we want to kind of get better at everything. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Please don't be afraid to ask, because all this makes perfect sense in my head. That doesn't mean I'm explaining it well at all.
How
So,
often do we send back the tally sheets?
you don't have to send it to me. If you would like to send it to me every week, do it. Like,
Okay.
let me help keep you
For
accountable.
accountability.
But that's totally up to you. I just need to see them at the end. But if you want to send it to me more frequently, absolutely. I'll take a look at it and provide whatever feedback I can. Other questions? All right, so let's just talk a little bit about nutrition. When we look at nutrition, there's a lot of, paleo, which I think everyone, I don't know, maybe you read it. I hate that term now. So the way we want to look at nutrition, the way I've sort of evolved to look at it, is that there's 3 kind of parts. The first part is correcting deficiencies in our nutrition. And the majority of us are going to be deficient in one or more of these 4 areas, right? So dehydration, not eating sufficient protein, there's going to be vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and then essential fatty acid deficiencies. So the first step in healthy nutrition is going to be correcting these deficiencies. And the habits that we give you are going to address these, right? So one at a time, we're going to talk about each one of these 4 things that most of us are kind of doing wrong. Not all of us, but most of us have deficiencies in one or more of those things. So once we get the basic of what we need to be eating, we're going to talk about eating the right amount for your body type. And in very broad brush strokes, we're going to talk about a baseline to jump off of what you should be looking at, right? And it's about more than just counting calories. Yes, calories are important, but not all calories are created equal, and your body's not going to respond the same way to 1,000 calories of pasta as it would to 1,000 calories of chicken breast and asparagus, if you could possibly eat that much at one sitting. And then we'll talk about some fine-tuning things in terms of timing the meals, kind of what you talked about, Ann, and then cycling of carbs and so on. So the nutrient deficiencies, this is what we're going to be doing with our weekly habits, right? So protein with every meal, supplementing with fish oil. Yes, there will be one about water consumption. Yes, there will be one about eating a certain number of servings of vegetables per day. Okay, and we'll talk, those are coming down the line, and we're not going to give you everything up front because we don't want to overwhelm. We want one habit at a time. Get comfortable with that, and then let's add something else in. So those are the big 4 categories that we'll be using these weekly nutrition habits to correct. And this is all about food quality. Okay, so I kind of made a joke like, yes, if you're going to have a Snickers bar, have some chicken with it. Now, obviously, we want to try to minimize sugar, processed foods, those foods that are going to contain gluten, but that's not the focus of what we're doing, right? So does that make sense? It's important, it's very important, but we're not going to stress out or go neurotic about, is this paleo, is this not paleo? Focus on the habits, one habit at a time, and then over time, we'll get all the pieces in place. Food quantity, right? It's more than just calories. I can't tell you how many people say, how many calories should I be eating? I don't know. Are you working out that day? What are your goals? So, the first thing we do is look at your body type. Ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, and you'll see, right? You have stick figures, you got V-type, O-type. For women, same thing, same breakdown. And so each of these are going to have ballpark nutrition guidelines. So take a look and kind of figure out which one you think you might fall into, and then pay a little bit more attention when we talk to that.
Will you help us figure that out? Because I think we all see ourselves differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's some guidelines.
Yeah.
So let's look at the I type, right? So I type is that sort of tall, lanky, skinny. So I type, ectomorph, thin, smaller bone structure, thinner limbs. Their engines are high revving. These are the folks that have like wicked high metabolisms. Very sympathetic, so very, flight or fight all the time. Let's go, go, go. High energy, fidgeting, they tolerate carbohydrates well. So these are the folks that most of us don't like. They can just eat carbs and sugar, right? And you don't see it. That's just their natural metabolism. And so these folks are going to have a generally higher carbohydrate diet. They can tolerate probably up to like 50 to 55% of their calories from carbohydrates. So a typical breakdown would be 55% carbs, 30% protein, and a little bit lower on the fat end, so 15% fat. But again, it's not about the math. So we have some guidelines here. We're going to talk about like palm and fist and thumb. Palms of protein. So these guys, for men, would have 2 palms, right? So however big your palm is, to include the thickness, that's 1 palm, right? So a hamburger. So like I'll eat, 1 3/4 hamburgers if I was an I type. 2 fists of vegetables, 3 cupped handfuls of carb-dense foods. Let's talk about that. Carb-dense foods. We're talking smart carbohydrates. Rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, like dense, starchy carbohydrates. All good. Breads and pastas, we kind of want to stay away from because of that gluten we talked about and the digestive irritability there. But when we say carb-dense food, that's what we're talking about. So fruits and vegetables, carb-dense food, and then 1 thumb of fat-dense food. So like however many almonds I could fit in my thumb, if it were hollow, that would be that. Or add that much olive oil on top of my vegetables. Right? So a thumb-sized serving of fat. For women, it's going to be about half, roughly. 1 palm, 1 fist of vegetables, 2 cups of carb-dense, and a half a thumb. And I'm going to give you these, so I'm not going to belabor this and go through every specific one. But we have the V-type, some specifics there, testosterone and growth hormone dominant. These are the folks that are very powerful, kind of stocky, very muscular, gain muscle and stay lean easily. And then again, a little bit more balanced, 40, 30, 30. And then if we want to get to the O-type, slower metabolism, don't tolerate carbohydrates nearly as well. 25% carbs, 35% protein, and the remainder with fat. So this, you'll have this, and we can talk. And if you want help kind of talking through which one most applies to you, then we can absolutely do that. Now here's the thing. That's a pretty rough guideline, right? And just like CrossFit, we want to work on mechanics and then demonstrate those mechanics consistently and then get intensity. The same thing is with nutrition. Let's get those first 2 steps. Let's get comfortable with that. So eating the right foods, in generally the right quantity, and then we can start to tinker, right? Then you can start to talk about meal timing. Experimenting, do you do better with 3 square meals a day? Are you a person that does better with 5 smaller meals a day? Do you do better with, when we talk about carb cycle in its simplest form, we're just looking at days of like high intensity training. Let's have a few more carbohydrates, especially right after you work out. And then on days when you're just doing that walking or it's a rest day, let's use a little bit of control and have slightly less carbs. So more vegetables, less potatoes, and rice. Does that make sense? And nutrition is super individual, right? There's no cookie cutter solution. But all we want to do is give you a place to jump off from, a starting point so we can start the conversation. Does that make sense? We'll hold that one to the end. Any questions? Nothing? All right. So I've talked to a couple people and I've gotten this question, what about weight? Why don't we do like a weight loss challenge? And there's a whole lot of reasons, but for these 95 days, I would really, really encourage you to weigh yourself only on the days that you take your pictures. And I know that's like a massive challenge, and that's not part of what we're doing. You won't lose points for doing it. But if we weigh ourselves every day, this is a decent, and although this is a bunch of weight loss in 21 days, don't use that, but this is a decent representation of what's going to happen. Our weight is going to fluctuate massively based on a whole host of factors, right? Hydration levels. Did you sleep 4 hours or did you sleep 10 hours? Did you exercise? Did you do a CrossFit workout or did you walk? Like, there is so much that goes into our weight every day that those scale is just going to absolutely and completely lie to you. So from day 1 to day 21, there's a general downward trend, right? And I think if everybody said, oh, you're 170 now and you're going to be 153 in a month, everybody would generally take that, right? But what happens is, we drop a couple pounds, then we jump on the scale and we're like, oh, shit, what happened? Something I'm doing is not working. I need to change things. I need to fiddle. Absolutely not. You just have to have patience. And so that's why we don't want to weigh ourselves every single day, right? You're going to start exercising more, you're going to start eating less, and those are two of the worst things that you can possibly do for long-term sustained weight loss or body composition changes. Does that make sense? So it's not about the weight. If you want to weigh yourself once a month when you take your pictures, awesome, do it. But I would really encourage you, if at all possible, minimize that. And if you're going to do it more frequently, you have to make sure you do it at the same time of day, anytime you do it. Because your weight in the course of a day, so you weigh yourself in the morning, you weigh yourself at night, or you weigh yourself midday, right? Your weight on a Monday is going to be different than your weight on a Thursday. Just be consistent with it. Whatever you decide to do, be consistent. So every Friday morning, every morning if you have to do that. But same time, same day if possible. Does that make sense? All right, awesome. That's all that's on here, but what other questions do you guys have?
How much guidance are you going to be giving in terms of like lean food? I'm of course a vegetarian.
Yeah, so we can have, so one of the articles I have that's in the first email to go out is how do we attack this from a vegetarian or vegan perspective. And we can talk as long as you need to figure out that. It can be a challenge, as I'm sure you know, just the quantity and finding the best sources possible. So we can absolutely spend a bunch of time talking about that. I'm not an expert, but I have some good resources.
I usually have 3 meals, but when I get home from work, I have my fourth meal like a bit weird.
Yeah.
It can be a banana with almond butter, but so if I roll up some turkey now with it, I'm okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so I just add the turkey to it.
just add the turkey to it.
Roll a banana in the turkey.
There you go.
There you go. That sounds delicious. Yeah, absolutely. And the reasoning behind that is to get away from the haphazard snacking. And so if the habit is I have to have protein, then you have to do just what you did and give it some thought. Like it can't just be like, well, I'm going to grab banana and almond butter. It's like, okay, let me stop and actually intentionally make this meal.
That makes sense.
Would you be able to give us some examples of like the best choices of foods? Because I know I've taken nutrition, so I understand, but sometimes just thinking ahead and preparing ahead versus, oh my God, I'm starving.
Yeah.
A spoon of peanut butter, which I would not take if I would have something prepared for me already ahead of time.
So that's a great question. One of the habits, spoiler alert, so close your ears if you don't want to have it, is planning your meals. And that's probably one of the most important things you can do to set yourself up for success. My wife and I do it twice a week. So like Sunday and Wednesday, we cook a bunch of stuff, put it in a little Tupperware, and then we're set. But you're absolutely right, planning ahead. And then the other thing is to have on hand like an emergency, right? So at our house we found grass-fed beef jerky, where in an emergency, that's what I go to instead of a scoop of almond butter or whatever it is. So that planning ahead is absolutely a key, and then having that emergency, right? Because we all know it's going to happen. Like we're gonna skip lunch, we're gonna get home, gonna have that headache, that hunger headache, and then there's gonna be kids yelling, and it's like, I quit. Give me a Snickers bar, right? No. Have some beef jerky, have a handful of berries, and you'll survive till dinner, right? And one of the things that I'll share with you guys too is I read a great article not too long ago about being hungry and how we look at that. Like it's okay to be hungry. We don't have to be afraid of being hungry. I don't think any of us are going to find ourselves in a situation where we cannot get food. So relax, but be prepared. What else? Yes,
The
ma'am.
measurements or size measurements, no body fat composition?
No body fat. I generally, just as a personal philosophical thing, I don't give body fat. I mean, we have the calipers and we can do that, but that just becomes sort of an artificial number that people get neurotic about. And what we all want, we want to lose inches in the right places, right? Like or gain inches. Like there's guys that want to get bigger. We can do that too. But I find that the pictures, so that visual, and then just this measurements seems to work better. Because then you do the calipers and you go do like a submersion thing, and it's super different, and then you just get neurotic. What else?
How about shakes?
How about shakes? That's a good question. So I guess I would say if we're gonna supplement, supplements. I said fish oil. I don't care what kind you use, whatever brand you want. I like Stronger, Faster, Healthier. That's what I use. I think it's the cleanest sourced, but whatever you want to use. Protein. If it's not Stronger, Faster, Healthier, then I would say don't do it. Now, for this, a post-workout, the only exception to that lean protein thing is immediately following a workout if you have to have like a protein shake. If you know you're not going to get real food in like an hour and a half or so, you can have a protein shake.
Like whey protein and slim.
Yes.
And water.
Now, we talked about the hammer. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Stronger, Faster, Healthier. Protein, mix, and water. That's cool. I'm good with that. But only if you don't think you're going to get a real meal in like an hour and a half. If you think that you're going to leave here and go home and eat, skip it. You don't really need it unless you're trying to get jacked. But if you know like you're going here, you're going to work, you got a bunch of meetings, and you're not going to eat, yeah, absolutely, it's important to refuel. What else?
There's no guidance about dairy or anything.
No, it's a great question though. So personally, I would recommend cut dairy out. Cut it out for a couple weeks, reintroduce it, and see how you feel. Right. So just a personal anecdote is I have a massive egg allergy that I never knew about. I cut out eggs for about 30 days and I put them back in. I got super sick, and ultimately I got tested and had a pretty significant allergy to both the yolks and the egg whites. But my body was just kind of dealing with it. But that meant there was a lot of junk going on too. So unless we really cut things out for a sustained period of time and then reintroduce it, we don't really know. And dairy is one of those things like every now and again there's folks that are okay with it. But I could say that we could get all the nutrients from dairy from other stuff. Now like butter, I'm totally cool with. But I'm just talking like specifically milk and yogurt and stuff like that. I like butter. Bacon. What else? That's
Dark
it.
chocolate.
What's
Dark
that?
chocolate.
There's no list of can and can't. Just you wrap it in turkey like Bridget.
So no,
Oh,
so wine, you can have your wine.
Alcohol? Yes, you can. Now, we'll talk and we'll share some resources about why that not be a great idea, like sustained over time. But if it's Friday night and you want to have a couple glasses of wine, do it. Because if I told you no, you're gonna just give up on everything else too. You're gonna be like, screw it, I'm out. That's what we do. So let's work together to find out like how often is that gonna happen. A couple weeks into this thing, we're gonna introduce the concept of like an open window, a couple hours every weekend where you can take the reins off, do whatever you want. But not right away.
The nutrition stuff doesn't compound on itself, right? So we don't do the lean proteins and then add something.
You don't have to. Not for scoring
The
purposes.
thought is it would be nice, but.
The thought, so ultimately what I want you to take away from this, over the course of 15 weeks, we're going to do 8 different things. If you can find of those 8 what works best for you, do it. Now, if you can get them all, that's obviously ideal. Like they're there for a reason because they're the right thing to do. But let's take what's going to work best for you. But no, there's scoring doesn't compound. But I would love for you to do it compoundedly. And they're not hard. It's not like, hard. It's just things that we all kind of know, but now there's an accountability system to do it. What else? That's it.
Sounds good.
Okay. So there's still time. If you haven't signed up yet, you can sign up through the end of the weekend. If you have signed up and all of a sudden you're like, this isn't what I thought it was, just let me know. That's fine too. You're not sort of held to something you didn't know the details of. So if you're out, you're out. If you're in, you're in. Gameplay starts on Monday. You're going to get a series of emails from me over the next couple days. It's going to include that spreadsheet. It'll include a good article about fish oil, just some frequently asked questions about dosage and da-da-da. I guess that's it. I'll be here if you guys have questions afterwards. But thank you again for taking half hour out of your Wednesday night to hang out with us.
Thank you.
Kathy,
I'm here on Saturday.